So it is near Christmas time in a few days, and just wanted to share some of the wines, the ones I'm gonna have for dinner, pair with the food, as well as some wines I bought just randomly while I was buying one of the wines I was gonna have with dinner on Christmas. But as I go over all that, just having an open source Chardonnay from Working Dog out of New Jersey, Working Dog Winery. I have a chicken kebab on its way with some hummus, so it'll pair wonderfully with that. White wine near Christmas time just seems a little crazy, but anyway. First wine, small bottle, half bottle. Jorge Ordonez's is Malaga. From Malaga, it is a Muscat, so a sweet wine. It's not one of the. It's a lighter. The colors it probably looks like that, goldish, but sweet wine for sure. Muscat grape. I always found this to be a pretty good one, 11.5%, $20-something. So high quality Muscat with good acidity. My mom really likes sweet wine. Anyone that wants someone with dessert, I think this wine goes absolutely great with dessert without being too overpoweringly sweet. So I want to talk about those in a minute. But one of the dinner wines, Mickey and braised short ribs. So this is a 2016 Muga Selección Especial Rioja. I've talked about this wine numerous times. This wine is one of my favorite $40 wines ever. Decanted, this wine is exceptional. Just exceptional Rioja. I had it at a tasting. Some of the folks I poured it for were like, what is that wine? Oh, I can't believe that's a Muga. I said, well, it's not just a standard Muga, it's the one above the Muga Reserva. This is just unbelievable. If you want to go even higher, you go to the Prado Anea. Even higher, you go to, I think it's called Arrow, which I've never had, but either way, they just make unbelievably good Riojas. So decanting this a good hour or two before dinner. So that'll be one of the dinner wines. The other dinner wine, I didn't buy it recently, but it's going to be the Récoltant 2018 Cab Sauv. So entirely different flavor profile to be Cab. That's probably Tempranillo heavy, probably with Grenache, Carignan mixed in. I'm not even sure what the blend is of this, but typically Tempranillo is, I think they have to be like 80% or something like that in Rioja. So Cab, Récoltant 2018, great vintage, Napa, great wine. I'm going to decant this. This wine's got the delicious factor. Absolutely will be liked by some of the others. What else did I find while I was there? So I found this wine. I haven't had this one in a long time. And I talked about Victorino recently. Victorino is the big brother of this wine. I'll also describe the other one and talk about that one too. So here's Almarez. So it goes Romanico, Almarez, and then Victorino. So sub 20, 25, 30, 60. This wine, I thought, when I first tried it for 17, I got it for 17, I used to even think it was less than that, was amazing. From Toro, so again, it's probably heavy Tempranillo. I feel like just it's slightly an extracted taste, but it's oaked and everything. They call it Tinta de Toro. It's 100% Tempranillo. Tinta de Toro in Toro, the same name is synonymous with Tempranillo grape. So I haven't had it in a while. And the vintage is 2012. So I guess they've had them for a little bit. It's the only thing that's a little nerve-wracking. Same thing goes with the Almarez, another 2012. Now these are big wines, so they absolutely can stand the time. It was a Wegmans store where they aged properly. They've been definitely sitting on a shelf for a while. This is also 100%. They probably just had more oak treatment. Maybe more new oak, I'm not even sure to be honest. And I'm not going to go through all that. But Victorino being absolutely one of my favorite wines from Tempranillo. And it is big and bold and juicy and delicious and just awesome. These aren't as good, but for the price, you're talking about 25 and 17, 18, or 17, 16. Just great wine. So I hope they're good, and they're 2012, so we'll see. And if they're great, it doesn't look like they're getting any more, or it just looks like that no one's buying them. But if they're great, I'll probably go and clear them out. For 17 bucks, sub $20, this Romanico, would I remember it being great? The Almarez, absolutely. 25, whatever they got, I'll just clear them out, and then maybe they'll bring the new vintage. Who knows? It's probably what Wegmans is either waiting for, or they do. Here's a little shelf talker thing. 2012 got 92 points by Parker, so whatever. I don't talk the scores much, but you would have thought that maybe pushed people to it. But again, it doesn't say. I mean, it just says Romanico and Toro, right? On the back, Tinta de Toro. What the hell does that mean to anybody? Nothing. The labels are nice. I think the labels are nice. But don't say anything to a consumer to really make them want to go out there and buy it. So I got two more wines here. One I'm going to cook with, but it's also absolutely a drinking wine, but it's $20. They always say when you cook with wine, make sure it's a wine you also would drink. You don't want to cook with cheap wine. So there's your little rule of thumb on cooking wine. The wine should be good enough to cook with. Do not buy the cooking wines from a supermarket. Those aren't wine. Or they might be, but they're god-awful. Go buy real Marsala. Go buy real Madeira. Go buy real port. Go buy real white wine. White cooking wine. White cooking wine, I don't know what that is, but go buy white wine. Anyway. Port. And I know I keep saying I'm going to talk about port. Well, not keep saying it, but I'm going to talk about port eventually. Late bottle vintage, port. So 2016 vintage. These are vintage dated. And what happens is port gets declared vintages. Not every year can be a declared vintage for vintage port. That is the highest category of port. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, but just a little bit to give a little bit of a background, some context here. The highest level of port is vintage port. Also, probably one of the top 3 longest lasting wines around, and they are meant to be aged. A vintage port should be aged minimum 10 years. Easily goes 20, 30, 40, 50. So, late bottled vintage means there was so much vintage port out of this house in, say, Taylor Flatgate that year, and the demand wasn't high enough for who they were selling it to. I don't know exactly how port sales work, and they left it in barrel longer than it should have been. So I think these are in barrel like 4 to 6. I feel like vintage port's like 2 to 3. I forget exactly all the aging rules, but it stays in there soft longer, and it gets more of an aged quality earlier and is more approachable early. But this is the filtered version. It doesn't say that on here, but if it doesn't say unfiltered, then it's the filtered version. This means this is ready to drink now. It could get a little better, but it's ready to drink now. And it's wonderful, wonderful value. $20, great port. Don't buy Ruby port. It's just not great. Late bottle vintage is what I absolutely recommend at the least, and it's not expensive, and it goes a long way. It's like 20% alcohol. Yeah, 20% alcohol. So they use brandy actually to stop the fermentation in port. So that's why it's got a higher alcohol, because some of that brandy gets in there. So late bottle vintage. I cook with that. I'm going to use it to, part of my braised short rib uses port. For drinking, here's a late bottle vintage LBV bottle aged, they call it. Bottle aged or unfiltered are synonymous, so it means that they leave all the sediment in here, which means this wine can absolutely age longer, and it's released later. So you see, this is a 2008, and this is Juarez. I love this port. This one's $25. $25 port that has crust in the bottom. So when you get to the bottom, you either decant this or it's got crust on the bottom. And you should drink this over a few days after you open it. But you refrigerate it to keep it longer. But anyway, this is my go-to port if I'm not buying vintage port. And I don't buy a whole lot of vintage port because it is up there in price. And you got to wait a long time to really, really enjoy it at its peak. So, this is my go-to port when I want port to drink with a cigar or with a dessert or settle the stomach after dinner drink, whatever it may be. When I want to cook and drink, I'll buy this and then drink the rest. So I'll cook with this and then drink the rest. Someone wants this tomorrow for dinner or for dessert, they could absolutely have it. So there it is. So the Muga, Selection Especial, and the Récoltant would be the dinner wines. Whatever people want up front. I got some champagne, some vintage champagne, regular champagne, Sauvignon Blanc, all sorts of wines, anything that anyone desires. I got some liquors as well that can easily be something to have with the appetizers. And we'll see how it goes. So I figured I'd share that. Changed up the music a little bit for this one. Changed up the outfit a little bit for this one. Have a good holiday. Have a good Christmas. Waiting for my dinner. I'm starving, and that's it.